It's a gigantic weekend for horse racing, and hopefully it is a historic weekend for horse racing. NYRA handicapper and analyst Andy Serling knows all about it on Twitter at Andy Serling. And Andy, before we get to the Belmont, there's a lot of big races this weekend that we need to be looking at.
Yeah, no, besides the Belmont Stakes, there are 5 Grade 1s. It's actually one of 6, as well as a total of 10 stake races throughout the cards. It's a 13-race card. The Belmont is the 11th, but they're very exciting races. And I don't think any race takes a back seat to the Met Mile, which is our 9th race in the card, 2 races before the Belmont. I mean, that's got an absolutely spectacular field of older horses, including last year's Breeders' Cup Classic winner Bayern and Tonalist, who won the Belmont last year. I'm very interested in Wicked Strong, who's a popular horse, won the Jim Dandy last year. Honor Code is running. It's one of the great races of the year. So, I mean, that's an appetizer for the Belmont Stakes, but a race that stands up well on its own.
Andy Serling with Armen and Levack. And Andy, what you're telling us is if you can't make your way to Belmont and go to this race, it's a good day to open up the computer on your IRA Rewards account and make it happen that way.
Yeah, no question about it. I mean, if you can't get the track, and there are still some admissions left, not too many, but if people are going to come, they really need to buy those because we're not going to sell admissions to the door, so you need to get those. But yeah, you get on NYRA, watch the whole thing on HD, bet on your NYRA account, and you bet these guaranteed wagers. We've got guaranteed wagers throughout the day. I mean, we're starting on Friday with some doubles linking. There's a double linking the True North on Friday as well as the Met Mile on Saturday. A double linking our last race on Friday, which is a 2-mile race on the turf, along with the Belmont Stakes. We've got guaranteed $500,000 pick 5 to start the day out. We've got a guaranteed pick 3 in race 3 through 5, a guaranteed pick 6, which ends the Belmont Stakes, a guaranteed pick 4, which ends the Belmont Stakes. There's just so much good stuff going on, and you don't want to miss out, and certainly should be a NYRA Rewards member and bet through NYRA.com.
All right, let's do it. So American Pharoah gets the 5th position. Is that how does that work out for Baffert and Pharoah?
You know, they seemed very happy with it. I mean, you could see the draw. They were relieved, I think, not to draw the inside. So that helped them. But from a tactical standpoint, and I don't think the post positions are incredibly significant, but the horse who's going to show speed and run with him early is Materiality, and he drew the 8 post. So tactically, I think they would have preferred to have drawn outside of Materiality. And Todd Pletcher has got a very good record over the last few years. He's got 2 seconds, 2 wins, I think the last 7 runnings of the Belmont Stakes, and they've all been horses that he has rested since the Derby, so he knows what he's doing, and he's really been pointing Materiality for this, and he may be the only horse in this race that is as talented as American Pharoah, and I'm not trying to knock American Pharoah, who's obviously accomplished a great deal more than Materiality, but Materiality is a very good horse. Now, the question is, can he hook American Pharoah, put him away, and then hold off any potential closers? So even if you think he's going to beat American Pharoah, do you think that necessarily means he's going to win?
Whew, all right. So how much will the fatigue of running the 3 races in 5 weeks be a factor for American Pharoah?
Well, that's the $1 million question, or the $20 million question. It's something you can't know until you're at the top of the stretch, and there seems to be a consistent result where that last quarter mile has gotten to a lot of horses. I do think in general, some of the horses that have lost, they've lost to some better horses, maybe that American Pharoah is facing, and he is the best horse in the race, but this is his 5th race in a relatively short time period. His 3rd race in the 5 weeks of the Belmont, the Triple Crown. It's a 1.5-mile race, and they're all questions that keep getting answered in the negative. We'll see if he can change that. Somebody's going to do it. Whether or not it's American Pharoah, I don't know.
Armen Levack, 104.5 The Team, your home for New York sports, getting you ready for the Belmont with NYRA's own Andy Serling. Follow him on Twitter. If you like the ponies in any way, shape, or form, at Andy Serling is a must-follow on Twitter. You mentioned Materiality. In so many people, I mean, when you say, who's the horse, Materiality is the one that comes up. Where did he come from? Because before the Derby, I hadn't heard the name.
Well, he ran 3 races at Gulfstream, where Todd Pletcher does very well, and he won the Florida Derby in just his 3rd start, and he was undefeated going to Derby. In a lot of ways, you could draw a correlation to Curlin, who had run 3 times, started out at Gulfstream, he ended up going to Oakland Park, and he went to the Kentucky Derby. He was a mediocre, distant 3rd in the Derby, but then in the Preakness and Belmont, he blossomed, and obviously went on to some great things after that. And I'm not saying Materiality is Curlin, per se, right, but they have similar resumes, and Materiality broke a little slowly in the Derby from a relative of inside post, and he got completely shut off after that. And then he was shuffled back. He was shuffled back almost to last, and he ended up making a real run late in the race. It was actually a pretty good performance when you consider the trouble he had, and he's just the kind of horse that could step forward because he's been relaxing while American Pharoah's been doing the dirty work. But there are other horses in here. You know, Dale Romans has Keen Ice, and Dale Romans is about as dangerous a trainer out there as far as running long shots in relatively improbable spots and winning big races. And Keen Ice may have had the most trouble of anyone in the Derby. I mean, literally from the 5/16 pole to the 16th pole, he absolutely was completely blocked in that race, and he had tons of run, and he couldn't get out. Is he going to be as effective in this race? Well, if Materiality and American Pharoah hook up and start to get tired, he's the likeliest closer.
Wow.
And my pick.
Oh, all right. Well, we'll get to that. Let me circle that name before we get to what I want to wager with this. But at Andy Serling on Twitter, got to follow him. Andy, if Pharoah can't win this race, are we going to be in a situation where people start to discuss possibly, lengthening the distance between each race? Maybe if you want to run in the Belmont, you have to run in the Preakness. Are there a chance of rule changes if Pharoah doesn't take on the crown?
Well, they can't make people run in races, and there's always the possibility of changes, but I think lengthening the Triple Crown would be a big mistake. I mean, this is something we do right. It works. It gets big crowds. It gets attention. In my opinion, if you spread it out, A, it changes the whole thing. But B, it doesn't make it easier anyway. But B, why would you break something that's not broken? And we've got enough things we need to fix. And somebody's going to win the Triple Crown, whether it's American Pharoah or not. So, yes, I wish he wins it so for 1 year I don't have to hear that discussion because it's tiresome. But I don't think it'll change. I hope it doesn't.
Anyway, there's been a big, I've noticed a lot of social media focused on American Pharoah's short tail. Is that just ridiculous? We have to fill time? That's all that is, right?
You might find this hard to believe, but there's a lot of ridiculous stuff on social media.
That's a fair point. But none of it coming from at Andy Serling on Twitter.
I've never said anything ridiculous in my entire life. And I'm looking to keep it that way.
Well, all right, speaking of not being ridiculous, this is when I need you. I got an 11-year-old daughter. We got to buy some new gym clothes and stuff. So as I head to the window, what am I doing this weekend?
I'd like to think that in my life I'm helping people buy clothes for their children.
Doesn't
I think
it feel
that really
better
makes
that way?
my life worthwhile. I picked Keen Ice over Materiality and American Pharoah. I've left American Pharoah out of the try every time. Maybe that's what's really ruining it for me. So I'm putting him third. I think I'm going to beat him this time. And why would I start picking him now? So I went 7-8-5 in this race. It's a very tricky race, but I think we're all just looking forward to seeing what happens. And if American Pharoah wins, that'll be a great thing for everybody. So I can't lose in this race.
And just because I do spend the entire day on my IRA Rewards account, what's your horse of the day besides the Belmont?
Wick is strong in the Met Mile.
Nice. He's Andy Serling. He is straight up money. And, of course, going into the Saratoga season after the Belmont, you and I are going to be talking about making some cash because, again, we have to get clothes for small children. That's what it's all about.
No question about it. I'm here to help the kids.
Thank you so much, Andy, and good luck this weekend.
Thanks, man. You too. Thanks a lot.